Hi, everybody. Okay, so let's get started. It's very late. Just can't be helped. It is. It's all breaking. The whole thing is breaking, and just wait until I tell you everything. It's just incredible what has been happening, and I just want to thank everyone for coming on and sharing, and um, lots of good news, lots of bad news for the criminals. So, okay, it looks like I'm on. Let's make sure that I can see everything. All right, thank you so much. And I know it's so late. Um, but there's no time to sleep. There's so much at stake here. So much. So we have a lot of breaking news, but I want to start by saying, this is Veterans Day. Happy Veterans Day. And, we always celebrate St. Martin's Day on Veterans Day, where all the children make lanterns and we wear the red capes or think about the red capes. This St. Martin's Day, we're going to be wearing the red capes. Um, and, symbolizing the uniform of a Christian Roman soldier that uh, that put his Christianity first, did the right thing instead of going along with retaliation against their political opponents, which is so fitting for today. Today, on 1,928 days since Richard was forcibly removed, Richard Halliday, the Fort Bliss whistleblower soldier, hero, national hero, um, deserving of all Americans' respect and honor, and just amazing, indelible legacy, which is very important to us. I don't know if President Trump knew that when he wrote that, but that's very, very important for us. And so the smearing, falsely smearing Richard, the framing to manufacture false evidence, the tampering of documents, the whitewashing of files, the manufacturing of images, um, and the lies and lies and lies that have been told and alluded to by Bob Moore of El Paso Matters. That is, it's Woody Hunt's El Paso Matters, and Sylvia Brunda Firth sits on that board, and it matters. All of that matters um, because they have manufactured the stories. They have manufactured evidence because the stories that the press writes and publishes um, can be used in a court of law, and so it's absolutely horrendous that they will mislead the public to mislead or to change policies, right? To change policies or to even go as far as putting their political opponents in prison, attempting to house arrest political opponents. And so, Richard was telling me that he had to stay in his room. It was too dangerous outside his room. And he was forcibly removed. He knew what he was talking about. I'm like, what are you talking about? You're a black belt in karate. But we know now that the military, his unit, had been infiltrated by those that are cartel tied to criminal trafficking and the worst type of crimes against children. and against humanity with this organ harvesting, with this baby harvesting, literally, and just a culture, a criminal group that has a culture of death. And so he was forcibly removed, not willingly, I know. And he was taken to a soundproof room on Fort Bliss, and his life was taken from him. Before that happened, and his body was stolen and dismembered and trafficked to Mexico, to Juarez, which is in the state of Chihuahua, Mexico, uh, to a place we believe is called Plenitude Crematorium. The whole Plenitude Crematorium scandal is in the news, and we believe that um, Richard is there. So that is a rotting body dumping disposal ground for the narco um, criminal syndicate that is just when I say up to no good, that doesn't even explain it. They are just absolutely diabolical. They're just horrible. And I don't even like that movie Wicked, for one major fact, that they called it Wicked, that they um that the kids go in the store and say, "Oh, I want to get the Wicked this or the Wicked that." I just can't stand it. I just absolutely can't stand it. They did a wrong, bad thing by naming it Wicked. So, uh, we cannot normalize the word wicked or make wicked cool or anything like that, because uh, the wicked is so bad. It's so bad. It's so anti-human. It is anti-woman, anti-children, anti-life, anti-men, anti-everything. It's just, it is wicked is what these people are. So when you get into the any kind of search with the organ harvesting, and in this funeral group, it just makes your blood curdle. It's so bad. So this is to know that the media is part of them is very important. And of course, we have the huge national news with BBC. I know BBC really, really well because we lived in Ireland for so long. And BBC has so much influence over Europe, well, the world, right? But mainly Europe. And for them to take our president, the president of the United States, that gives so much. You understand, the United States gives so much, and people take so much from the United States. It could be so great, but the the amount that we give and the amount that people take um, is just astronomical. Okay, and for BBC to try to protect that, because uh, they want, they're greedy, right? There are people there in Europe too that are uh, profiting off of what we give. And so to have, and also what they can take, meaning the border, the criminal trafficking along the border. And do not even question that Europe is not part of this criminal trafficking. They're absolutely part of the criminal trafficking. And so it's very, very big money, um, very big money. And so there's a lot of motive for BBC to not like President Trump because of his policies on a secure border and fair trading. Uh, and, this is besides anything else, this is just a fact. I'm not trying to be political here because in Richard's case, it really isn't political. It's really good versus evil. That's what it really amounts to because there's bad players on both sides. It's just that's the way it is. There's bad players on both sides of the aisle, and a lot of them on both sides. And so, for BBC to do what they did, manufacture false evidence, okay? Because we know, because evidence absolutely confirms that the political opponents of President Trump, being Democrat or Republican, it doesn't matter. The political opponents, because there are political opponents on both sides of the aisle against him. There's mutiny, absolutely. And so, and we know that. We know that because evidence confirms it. Um, and it's mountainous that there are people on both sides that want that open border, that want to profit on the criminal trafficking, that want to continue like John Kelly. John Kelly, is an imposter Republican, I guess, or some other kind of Republican. I don't know what kind of Republican he is, but it's not a good one, and um, he's guilty of treason in my book. He's guilty of treason, absolutely, in my book. That's and worse, the worst type of crimes against children. He, and I know that he needs to be put through the legal system for them to finally admit what he did, what he did, which was so bad, absolutely so bad. Um, so there's on both sides, um, and for BBC to be, participating in the opportunity to try to trap, frame President Trump with January 6th, which we were there, January 6th, 2021. 2021. We were there. And they absolutely, that was a manufactured smear. Um, well, what do you call that? Like a manufactured false evidence. Oh gosh, I just had, let me look this up because, and I know it's late. But I thought it was so good about what they did to Richard. Yeah, smear kit. Smear kit. I found it. Well, with President Trump, maybe it should be called something different. It's a kit. It's a smear kit, a guilty evidence kit. They were creating this kit that they could take from to destroy him, okay, legally, to put him in prison. Um, and maybe someone can come up with a different name other than a smear kit, because smear kit I was using for Richard. Um, but for President Trump, they absolutely wanted to put him in prison forever. So this was a false evidence kit they were building and putting together. And so what the media does, being it a story or, yeah, a video presentation, whatever, um, they were absolutely manufacturing this. And what they did is they took his speech from that day and they spliced it. They spliced the video of his speech, and it had, I think, over 50 minutes separation. And they put it together so that it would look like him standing there inciting violence. Now, in a court, or who knows what kind of judge they wanted to use or whatever, that would probably be caught. But we are a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. And this splicing, even though it was to create this evidence against Trump kit, false evidence against Trump kit, um, it really was an assault on the people, okay, on the public, because they were trying to get the public to believe that January 6th was a political right, violent act of insurrection. And I was there. I was there. I can absolutely tell you what happened. And it wasn't a right movement insurrection. It was not that at all. And but they wanted to frame it that way. They wanted to frame it that way, and they wanted to manufacture evidence, to false evidence, to make that happen, make a something false into on documents, make it a reality, and so that they could prosecute. Yeah, a prosecution kit, a fake prosecution kit. Oh my gosh, fake prosecution kit. I'm just thinking about Montoya and what he's doing. He does with this lawyer right now in El Paso. Yeah, I think that is a good name, a fake prosecution kit for President Trump. That's what they were trying to do, and BBC was participating in that, and they spliced that speech to make him look like he was inciting violence, when indeed that's not what was happening at all. And nobody was inciting violence except for the bad actors that we know now were FBI informants and FBI agents that were there. So, and we don't even know how many other individuals from opposing political side was there, besides the FBI and the FBI informants. Um, because I'm going to tell you, there were instigators there, directing, directors, and yeah, and of course, um, the whole thing was meant to affect the election, um, steal the election, uh, eh, because they just could not have President Trump's policies on the border. They want that border wall wide open so that they could continue with their criminal trafficking and exploitation of this country, draining it of its assets and resources. So, because there is absolutely a lot of oil theft going on, of course, a lot of assets from our military bases, and a lot of assets because of the sale um, of substances and things like that. So now, on the heels of that BBC, where they got caught, and now President Trump is president again. So he has a different playbook than they do. And his playbook is called Deep State Accountability. That's what his playbook is called. And many people, unless you've been following this, our son's story day in and day out, you might not understand the deep state and who they are. And I see some fractions going on in the Republican um, side. And, and like I said, I'm not for one side or the other. I should say some fractures going on those that want justice, that want something good. Um, and that's because um, the deep state is not what we think it is. Um, we have been given um, a look into the deep state with Richard's case. And we've told you that it is a Mormon faction cartel tied. And I will say this now, that it is connected to a um, I don't want to put a nationality on it, but I would say foreign actors um, that just do not love humanity. Okay, that want to exploit the world. And I'm talking about like Soros and those that have infiltrated into like Great Britain, into Israel, into Europe, into many other countries, uh, including our own. So there is a group of very bad actors that are anti-humanity. It's just that simple because countries have a right to focus on serving their people, okay, not being exploited. And they are just like grasshoppers. They just want to exploit any country. And ours is very wealthy, and so we're really attacked. And but this Mormon faction cartel tied foreign anti-human network is absolutely the deep state, and they're up to no good. They're up to no good. It's very clear. And so that BBC would participate in the manufacturing of a fake video, all right? It really is on the heels of that to find out that Maru Campos and her network paid El Diario, right? So that would be Sylvia Barunda's first family member. What is it? I want to say $2 billion. No, it's 100. I just did the translation of the let's read it. Oh yeah, 108 $108 million. $108 million. Like, people in Chihuahua don't need that money. She has that kind of money, just, like, in her right hip. What does she have in her left hip? To pull out 108, more than $108 million, to give to the media so that they will attack Corral, right? Senator Corral. And this came out today, and I just had to post it as soon as I could, and that's why it was very, very late, because I was trying to make sure that I had everything right in this story, translating things from Spanish and getting the numbers right, because $100 million, oh my, over $100 million of, what they're calling bribe money. They're calling it bribe money. Um, uh, to cover up, well, to create a fabricated audio, to create a story that's called travel ban of Senator Corral, Javier Corral. Now, I don't know Senator Javier Corral, Gerardo. I don't know who he is. Okay. I don't know. I know that Maru hates him. That's what I know. That Governor Maru of Chihuahua, Mexico hates him so much that she would spend $100 million to get the media to manufacture false evidence against him, to start a prosecution, a false fake prosecution kit. you know uh, that's what's going on here, right? I'm going to pay you $100 million to create uh, a pre fake prosecution kit to destroy my political opponent, or whistleblower, right? Whistleblower. And we'll be talking about this even more as more information comes out, and as we understand this, especially me, since I have to talk about this, because this is so important. It's so important because it absolutely explains what they did to President Trump, and what they did to Richard, and what they did to Judge Roger Rodriguez, okay, who is the whistleblower in our son's case. And what Judge Rodriguez did was absolutely right. He, from what I know, he absolutely put in several, and this is why it could not be whitewashed that we found out about it. Of course, um, Judge Rodriguez called us to notify us that he had filed a whistleblower complaint of the interference of who he identified as the prime suspects in the murder of our son, Richard Halliday. He did that, okay? And they went after him. They went after him, um, and he also, um, by identifying the key suspects, being Leilani Hart and Tavita Nusa and Dallas Hart, by identifying the key suspects, we were able to put many, many things together that show you that this is connected to the Walmart mass shooting. And of course, in his letters that I reposted, that is a cease and desist that was CC'd to us. We, really encourage everyone to read that because it's exactly the same thing that happened to Senator Corral and that happened to President Trump. It is a manufacturing of audio recordings to try to destroy, and this is fake, you know, fake audio recordings in order to destroy a an officer of the court, to obstruct justice, right? They don't want an officer of the court becoming a whistleblower because they are so credible. They're so credible. If a judge becomes or an attorney becomes a whistleblower, they are so credible. And so they proceeded, and they didn't have a kit, right? They didn't have a fake prosecution kit. They didn't have a fake smear kit on Judge Roger Rodriguez. They were in a real pickle. So they had to manufacture and use Leilani Hart, the very individual that he identified as being a prime suspect in our son's murder case. Bob Moore used her to um, fabricate, to manufacture evidence, to start a fake prosecution kit, right? To manufacture evidence so that they could destroy um, Judge Roger Rodriguez's whole career by using those stories to file a state bar complaint or, uh, Commission on Judicial Conduct complaint, where Sylvia Barunda Firth sat not now anymore, thanks to my husband. Um, but uh, Sylvia Barunda Firth was supposed to be there for years still. And she was on that um, commission. And, if someone put in a fake story there about Judge Rodriguez, she could, because she's dirty as hell, um, she could really destroy his career. And so, with the state bar needing evidence, right, or the Commission on Judicial Conduct needing evidence, she could use these fake stories. The problem is she also sits on the board of El Paso Community Foundation that controls El Paso Matters. It owns El Paso Matters. It's Woody Hunt's. And so the conflicts of interest always pile up here. And it's really for Brunda. She is really the spider, the next spider. And she's a deadly spider. Or maybe she's a weak spider. Maybe we're finally figuring it out. She might look atrocious, but she's no longer on the Commission on Judicial Conduct. That is really good, really good. Um, so she sits on the community foundation but she's also family members with um, the owner of Aldario El Paso, that also has uh, Aldario Juarez, and the very person that now was reported to have received $100 million bribe to cover up this plenitude, this crematorium, this Del Carmen, this La Diabla, criminal trafficking, organ harvesting, baby adoption, all this illegal illegal practices that are going on, and all the trafficking that goes on, more trafficking that goes on with it. So, Sylvia Brun de Firth is a very well, she's a pretty big spider in all of this, and to have Maru Campos, of course, her mother is going to be so implicated in this, um, because she was the person that failed the oversight, right? That allowed this uh, rotting body dumping ground to run with impunity, run without a license, not be checked, here you have um, over 400 bodies. Who knows how many have gone through there being totally sacrilegiously mishandled. It's just disgusting. And, that's Maria Eugenia uh, Galvan, right? That's her mother. So they must have a lot of money to be able to give the media $100 million to try to destroy their political enemy, who is, very interesting, Senator Javier Corral Gerardo. And he has a role in all of this. And she wants to keep him from going and testifying in Texas. I believe so. I believe she, doesn't want him to be testifying, being a witness in Texas. So we'll we're keeping a very, very close eye on this. And, uh, for the media like El Paso Matters, it makes you wonder how much did she pay El Paso Matters, right? Because look, Richard is, I'm going to tell you right now, Richard was exposing this whole funeral thing because uh, I, it is hard to understand, but the people that were assigned to us or assigned themselves to us, they are so part of this funeral home um, scam, okay? And they were doing damage control and counterintelligence with us. Absolutely. And, that I just wonder how much they were paid. How much were they paid? And how much was El Paso Matters paid to run the fake story about Richard? You know, and think about all of the documents that have been doctored, all of the documents that have been tampered with. It's just enormous, enormous. And now we're finding out that it's all possible. They were doing it. They were absolutely doing it, that we're not making things up, that they were tampering with Judge Rodriguez, that they were manufacturing fake evidence with Judge Rodriguez. They were splicing and doing their thing with Judge Rodriguez. Um, and they were doing that, with many other people that were the political opponents to everything that was going on in 2020, and of course in our son's case, and even in 2021. And this is really breaking news that and I'll show more, but I put up the cease and desist that Judge Roger Rodriguez sent El Paso Matters. Um, so we were CC'd on there, so absolutely we can share that with you. Um, it's this playbook that they have to manufacture a fake prosecution kit, right? A fake prosecution kit or a fake smear kit. In Richard's case, it was a smear kit. And people have to understand this. It was Bob Moore. Bob Moore and his family that participated in building that smear kit, okay? They participated when he was alive and well. They targeted him and participated in already framing him and building a smear kit, a fake prosecution kit, whatever you want to. We need to get a good name for it because I think it's a very good illustration of what they were doing because that very kit is what El Paso Matters that they were building, that they were helping to build, that they were framing Richard on. It was that kit that they were taking out of to build fake stories for him after he was murdered. And I think that that is, wow, this was so premeditated. It really proves premeditated targeting of Richard, framing of Richard, counterintelligence of Richard, then uh, forcibly removing him, taking his life, and then the disposal because they could not have another Vanessa Guillen, the disposal of his remains. And, so it was very premeditated, and this really shows that. And the other thing that I wanted to mention yesterday that I got sidetracked on is this using AI to measure the gait of a person. And that terminology, gait, is like your walk, the way a person walks. Everybody walks differently, and that's called a gait. And you have fingerprints, right? You have facial recognition, right? You have your height or your weight, the color of your hair, the color of your skin, the area where you reside. All of these things are used to identify a person. And now with AI, like a fingerprint would be the way you walk. And with this pipe bomber, they measured the pipe bomber's walk, gait, um, with a slight limp. There was a slight limp from a sport injury to the knee. So they can match that with the person, their location, their height, their weight, their color, their coloring, all of their coloring, the clothes, everything, and then also the gait. Um, which now they identified who she is and that she was an infiltrator, right? An infiltrator up to no good, a mutiny. It was a mutiny pipe bomb. It was not any part of the MAGA people that were there. And I can tell you, when you went into that crowd, it's like 1 million people, and you could feel energy from people, right? And the energy was overwhelmingly very positive, super positive. It was such a great day. But then as I walked around, you knew that there were some bad actors, and of course you saw them up above. They would go up above and tell us to all get together. Nobody that had a good spirit, a good energy, told people to get together because they respected what was going on in 2020. They wanted, they're law abiding, and they were there as citizens of this country, and it was their right to be there. I talked to so many of them that just wanted to support those in Congress to do the right thing and to look into the election because of the irregularities. And I'm from Florida. I was voting out of Florida for so long. Of course, I'm from El Paso. Um, I'm getting older. A big part of my life is Texas. A big part of my life is Europe. A big part of my life is being married to my husband from Florida. So we were voting out of Florida. We remember the hanging chads and all of that. Um, it is, you know, it- nobody questioned that people were questioning the election, right? It was everybody's right to do it until you got to 2020, right? And when you got to 2020, you were not allowed to question it. And that in itself is irregularity and an indication that something very wrong was happening. So we, you know, and I'm thinking about the Walmart mass shooting and the false narrative, and there was so much false, fabricated, manufactured stories, and now they're all coming out. And so BBC could not stand on its own 2 feet when it came to this. They were sorry, they were absolutely wrong. And so you had two major players. I mean, people just don't resign from positions like that. They are very high paid. And so two people already resigned from there. And of course, we saw the manufacturing of the Kamala tape, and we know that the audio recordings that they were trying to put in their fake prosecution kit for Judge Roger Rodriguez was absolutely manufactured, spliced together, and you can't attack like that. I mean, you're just going to ruin a country. So the media absolutely needs to be held accountable. And this whole thing, $100 million given to Eldario, um, wow. Wow. That all needs to be checked. And it tells you that they're hiding something at Plenitude Crematorium. They're hiding something very big, and I think it's my son's remains. That's what I think it is. And of course, they're also hiding many bodies that have been tortured. We already have um, um, that intelligence coming in. And then we know with El Diablo that those tortured bodies might have big cavities for when their organs were taken from them, harvested from them. And this is what they're hiding. They're hiding major crime. And I don't know why Raphael Arliano, whose mother lives in a house that is Cano Still Inc., um, why isn't he arrested? Why is he allowed to be in El Paso and not arrested? I mean, you're talking about over 400 bodies. He should absolutely be arrested and not meeting with Ricardo Samaniago, the county judge, to fine dine, right? Um, yeah, it's uh, another example of all of this and how well they know each other. Makes you wonder, are they family? Because they all seem to be family in this funeral business. They all seem to be family and intermarried um and you know have been working on this criminal trafficking for years and putting people in place for years to cover up for the horrid that they do. Makes you wonder a lot, right? So that's the major news, which is huge news. And I did put up the cease and desist for Judge Rodriguez. And I hope that you read that again because it really makes everything real. You don't have to believe me. You can read what Judge Roger Rodriguez says. You can listen to what President Trump is saying and what BBC is saying, right? Even though they twist and turn, they're known to do that. Um, and um, you can look at Richard's case. Um, he's sparkling clean, sparkling clean. That was all just framing to manufacture, and you can't even deny the whole car thing, the A&R Chavira car thing, the Melendez, the Melendez connection to the funeral homes, the Rocha's connection to the funeral homes, Purchase Rocha, Melendez. This is all one big established and documented connections. They're not me making them up. They are absolutely documented, huge documented connections and all of it. And, so, uh, you know, uh, of course, Bob Moore of El Paso Matters um, is part of it too, because he led the smear campaign. Not even led it. He I guess managed the whole framing and everything from the very beginning. He put together the kit. He put together the kit and then pulled from it to write stories on Richard. So it's yeah, we are a government by the people, of the people, for the people. We can do something about it. Listen, listening, sharing, and sharing this with other people just by word of mouth, sharing it on social media, of course, and writing if you feel that led to do that, to write some letters. Write some letters. There's a lot of addresses out there, a lot of people that need to hear from veterans, especially because they've been so exploited in this, you wouldn't even believe it. And here we are having Veterans Day, so we need to protect our true veterans and um, are those that fight in the justice system for what's right. We need to do that. So thank you so much. God bless you. Thank you, Anicia, for coming on. Thank you, Danielle, for coming on so late. Um, yes, we love you for that. And have a great evening, and we'll be back tomorrow.